Hey guys, what's up? Ryan here with Switchcraft and Switchery. Jeremy and I are actually in the same place today, so we figured we'd kind of do like a longer form discussion video about Pokemon. We've been wanting to do this for a while, just kind of cover some of our history that we've had with Pokemon over the years, since it's kind of such an important part of our like gaming franchise lives. So yeah, we're gonna jump right into it because I feel like we got a lot to talk about today. So I guess let's start from the beginning. What would you say your first memory like with Pokemon games was, like overall? Like what was your first game? Well, obviously like on the Game Boy, but you know, came out on a couple of different things. Did you start right off at the beginning, or like where did you start with Pokemon?
Pokemon Silver. I think it was. I got it for a birthday, and I actually played it on this exact Game Boy Color, which would have been in like 2002, and I still have it. You have to mess with it a little bit, but it does work, which is super cool. I don't know if I know where my Pokemon Silver copy is. That was my first one. I went with Cyndaquil. That's his name, right? Cyndaquil, yeah. Kind of went blank on that. And it was I didn't really know that much about like how the Pokemon games worked at the time, and I was very young, so I can talk more about that here in a second because I have a lot of thoughts in that game. But I'll turn that one back to you.
Yeah, dude, I got in on the ground floor. Like I wasn't like huge into gaming outside of like PC stuff. Which I'll get into that history of like how I started gaming another day. But I had an original Game Boy. It was clear, and I got Pokemon Red. I don't remember when the game actually came out. I should have looked that up for the dates, but I remember getting it in the summer because I was like sitting at like one of my younger brother's baseball games, like playing this on there. And I just remember like my hands being sweaty playing Pokemon Red. And I started off with Charmander because he was who was on the front
Oh
of
yeah.
the cartridge. And that actually tracks to this day. I almost always try to get like what I would consider like the red version of the game. And I always start with like the fire Pokemon. It's just like it's tradition now. So yeah, it was wild like getting that game and just playing it on like, you know, this big chunky Game Boy. And then I ended up upgrading and finishing the game on like a Game Boy Color, but it was the teal one, right?
Mm.
Or like kind of bluish, but it wasn't like dark blue or whatever. And so I remember like playing it and then moving over to like the Game Boy Color and was like, dude, this is so much smaller. So yeah, right in on the ground floor, man. It was wild. And I don't think I was like excited to get the game. I think my mom was just like, this is a popular game, and so I'll get it for you. Like I don't really know what it is other than it is popular.
I think that's the same thing that I had because like my parents didn't know what it was, and I just like got it for my birthday. And I should have brought it in, but I think in the other room I have the exact Game Boy Color you're talking about, like
Oh yeah,
the teal
the
one.
teal one.
Yep, that was my sister's, and for some reason it's in there. I don't know why, but it's right around the corner. So
Yeah. So from your first game, like what was your favorite Pokemon? I know a lot of people like have an affinity for the starters, but did you have like some sort of random guy that you just saw or caught, or was like you finally got him in like a hard battle and you're like, yes, I got this guy?
in like the first Pokemon, or in like my first playthrough, or just like overall.
You know, just like overall in like I guess Silver, you said, right?
In Silver, I remember when I caught Ho-Oh, and you had to like work your way up that tower,
Yeah,
and how
yeah.
cool that was. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got this. And then catching the like the legendary dogs,
Mm-hmm.
because like those were so hard to catch because you would have to like be at the same place as them, and then if you switch routes, they would move. So
Yeah.
you would just have to keep moving. And I know there were like tricks to that, but like that was before. I mean, the internet existed, but you couldn't
Yeah.
just like look it up on YouTube and somebody would tell you. Like you had to like mess with it. Um, so, but yeah, catching that, and then Lugia, obviously, because
Mm-hmm.
I had Silver, so Lugia was the weaker one. Because like I think if you caught it, it would be like level like 40 or 50, and then the other one you catch would be like at level 70.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't that flipped for the two games.
Dude, I haven't played Silver in years, so I couldn't
I
even tell
think
you.
that's how it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've always been. Well, I guess we'll get into like our overall favorite Pokemon later. But as far as when I had Silver, I was so excited when I caught Ho-Oh.
Yeah, so for me, mine was Articuno. Like, I have an affinity for just like cold weather and like snow and stuff. And I don't really think, no, because Gen 1 they didn't have ice type, I don't think.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Ice and
so
Steel were added too,
yeah.
or something like that.
So it was like the only like ice Pokemon, right? And so I was like, oh, dude, like an ice Pokemon, and it's like a bird that can shoot ice beam. I was like, oh, this is so cool. So,
Yep.
but yeah, I just remember like getting to the end of the game or whatever, and like being able to catch like Articuno, and I just was like, this is the coolest Pokemon ever, But it wasn't until like a lot later that we got like ice type, and then I feel like ice type is like in a way like kind of overall a little weaker, so it was kind of like,
Mm.
oh man, like my cool bird is not as powerful.
Yeah, yeah.
So obviously like in the 90s, late 90s, the game comes out, and dude, I remember it being everywhere. Like it felt like at my school, you even like if you went to like a random place, if kids were there, like Pokemon was everywhere. It was like at like Burger King, everywhere was Pokemon. So like how much did like the Pokemon mania did you get into?
Definitely big time. I mean, I had a Pikachu backpack. I had like a stuffed Pikachu. I love to collect the cards. I didn't get super into the game as much. I just like to have the cards like in a binder and to like look at them and trade them with my friends. Um I watched all the movies. Like there was the first movie, Mewtwo Returns, right?
Yeah.
Like the one that was
Mewtwo
like
Strikes Back.
Strikes Back, yeah. There was like 2000 Pokemon Forever.
Yeah.
There was the one with
So nice.
Celebi, I think. Was that Forever?
I don't remember.
There was one about Celebi, and then the one there was, and then there was one with like Entei.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that might have been 2000. It was like Pokemon the movie 2000 or something.
I do know they have like a million Pokemon movies.
Yeah.
I looked that up the other day.
Yeah. My fandom, like as far as the TV show and all that, kind of drifted off after, like into like the Gen 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not quite as fresh on the anime, and all that. But yeah, I mean, I remember those movies. Oh, the Ancient Mew.
Oh yeah,
Dude, that was such a big thing. I might have had one. I don't have it now, but like I'm sure those are worth like a decent little amount of money now, because that was like the whole deal with that first movie and all that. So I didn't. We were discussing like kind of like pre notes and thoughts on this video, and I didn't even think about Ancient Mew and how much of like a staple that was.
Yeah. So for me, I feel like I was really into Pokemon, like more than I gave myself credit for. Like I remember getting like the game, and then there was actually like a Pokemon like trading card league at Toys R Us. I feel like it was on like a Saturday morning, but we would go, my mom would take us, because it was like she could take me and my brothers there, and we would just be like all out of her hair for like an hour, right?
Yeah.
So we would go, and they would have like a section set up with all these tables, and like I do remember getting like promotional cards for like coming, but it was like they had a dude there, and he had like a polo shirt on with like the Pokemon like Pokeball on it, and they would like have us battle and like teach us how to play, and if there were like new cards, like, and then we would like get to buy the cards like at the end. So I remember like having quite a bit of cards. I actually just talked to my one of my brothers this weekend, because I had asked them like, hey, do you guys remember where all of our cards were? Because we had like the starters and like all the good cards like Ancient Mew and stuff in a binder somewhere, and like years later I was like, I know we didn't sell that. Where did that end up? And one of my other brothers was like, oh yeah, he was like, I have that, it's like somewhere in a drawer. And he does not care really about like Pokemon or video games at all, and I'm not gonna be like, dude, give that to me, but at the same time I'm like, I really want that. So
dude, this is a crazy random story. I meant to bring this up like in our just like pre-discussion on this video. I don't know if you remember this. I'm sure you were there, but this is a slightly side topic, but it's a hilarious story. When I was a kid, I was terrified of loud noises. I don't know if you remember this. Like when we would go to like fireworks shows or whatever, like people were shooting guns, I would like scream and cover my ears and stuff. And one time we were at our grandparents' house, and I think like it might have been you, because you're the oldest one. Someone had like got their first gun, like a 22 or something, and we were like out in the cornfield like shooting stuff, and like I think it was Jacob. your youngest brother or Josh, one of you was like trying to get me to do it, and I was like to shoot the gun, and I was scared. And I think he had like an extra holographic Charizard, and was like trying to bribe me to do it. He's like, dude, if you do it, I'll give you one. And because like holographic Charizard was like that's like the holy grail.
OOP.
Yeah. So, and I honestly can't even remember if I did it, but I meant to ask you if you remembered that.
Dude, I don't. I do remember like that instance where I like had the gun because I was like super excited.
I think it might have been at Grandma Bessie's house, like out there on the farm or whatever. But no one watching this video has any idea what we're talking about.
Dude, that just is like the most Kentucky thing.
I know.
Oh, Grandma Bessie out in the farm.
Grandma Bessie. But
shooting guns.
Yeah. Anyway, on that note, do you have or did you have any like what was like your favorite card or like prized possession card?
So I did have an Articuno card. I had, and this is why I kind of wanted to ask one of my brothers about it, because we had in a binder like all the special cards, and so we had like the evolution, all the evolutions of like the starters. So, you know, it was like 3 cards across. So it was like, hey, the first page is like, you know, Charmander up to Charizard, Blastoise, etc. And then we had a second page with the legendary birds at the top, and then like Ancient Mew and Mewtwo, and then like any other like holographics, we had like Chansey and stuff like that. And so, of course, I like, you know, Articuno being my favorite Pokemon. I think I got that at like the Toys R Us Pokemon League. Like, I feel like I won it as like a prize or something like that. Because I was one of the older kids there. And I just remember being like, oh, dude, I've got this. And then, like, I think one of the other brothers got, like, Moltres or something like that. And I was like, oh, we got to put it in the book. Like, we got to try and get, like, all of them or whatever. But that was probably my favorite one, was the Articuno. So, yeah, that was probably my favorite one.
Yeah, I can't remember. Like, I definitely had, like, a regular holographic Charizard at some point. And then I also had a Blaine's Charizard. And then I still have it. I might even know where it is. It might be here at my parents', just in like a pile of old stuff. I can't remember. But I have like a first edition like holographic Machamp that came in like something I got you know, like in 1999 or something. And I actually found the card a few years ago and like looked up the number or whatever. And that card in really good shape is worth like a few $1,000s or something. Like nothing crazy. It's not like 100K or whatever. Because some of those Charizards are way up there. But if it was in like flawless shape, I forget what's like the grading system they use.
Yeah, it's like through 10. I had a friend who got some random cards graded, and I think it's like a 10 or whatever. It's like the best.
Mine is not in good shape, and if I looked it up and it was like, if you have the highest one, it's worth like $2,000 or something, and even the next highest one down is worth like $60 or something. So it's probably not worth anything. But if I would have taken better care of it as a kid, it might be. But yeah, I didn't really get that into the game, and I was into the cards for a little bit. But when it comes to like cards like TCG, when I was a kid, I ended up like a lot more into Yu-Gi-Oh than Pokemon. And we're not here to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh by any means, but I was more into that, and even kind of had like a resurgence with Yu-Gi-Oh a few years ago. So I don't have like a ton of like crazy good Pokemon cards, but I was really into it there for a while.
Yeah, I remember like kind of my most touching moment, I guess, as a kid with the Pokemon stuff was, you know, we would watch the anime on like the Fox affiliate or whatever in the mornings, and it always would get to the Snorlax episode where they're like trying to like get Snorlax to like move. And then like they use like a flute and like wake him up, and he eats like all this stuff, and like I forget what but I had seen that episode like a million times because that was the last episode, and then it would start back to the beginning. And it did that with like several Japanese shows because they hadn't like made him or translated him yet. And I was like, oh dude, there's got to be more like to the show than just him like messing with Snorlax. And then they came out with the movie, and I remember going and seeing the movie. And like that part at the end,
I know where this is going.
Yeah, where Mewtwo and Mew like hit Ash, and he turns to stone, and all the Pokemon are crying. And I remember being like,
they're all fighting their brother, my brother. That one,
dude. I just remember like he's like, it was the first time I had seen like someone on screen outside of like, you know, Land Before Time like suffer grief.
Yeah,
and Pikachu's like shaking him and like trying to shock him. And I was like, oh, like
traumatic.
Everyone in the theater is crying. I'm like, Dude, you
Yep.
just murdered everyone's childhood. I'm like, holy crap. It's like, did Don Bluth make this movie? Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Oh, dude, yeah.
So, yeah, that was like probably my most intense moment with like Pokemon as a kid. But, so this was something I was thinking about. As a kid, I had a distinct thought process of where I believed like Pokemon with like the games, especially, was going. And it didn't really go the direction I thought. Did you have like something like this? This is gonna be the next step, right?
Mm.
Did you think anything like, oh, we're gonna get like, I don't know, like it's kind of an open ended question or whatever, but I know I had that.
Um, this was the one question I didn't really have a great answer for. I mean, and maybe we'll get a little bit more into this. Well, I guess now's the time. But really, when I saw the Switch for the first time, I think I might have even like talked about this in our very first video. But one of the first things I thought of is like the sky is now the limit for Pokemon.
Yeah.
With the Switch and like playing Pokemon on a TV. Now, I might be 20 years ahead of you though, because it sounds like you had other thoughts on that.
Yeah, yeah. So I remember playing it on the Game Boy, and then I got the N64, and they released Pokemon Snap. I think was like the first Pokemon game for it.
Mm.
And
Oh, Pokemon Snap! Me and my sister we were slaves to that game.
yeah. And so we played that, and I was like, dude, these are Pokemon in 3D in a world. And I was like, now obviously they're just gonna make the next Pokemon game on the N64.
Oh yeah.
And they made Pokemon Stadium, and they even had the Game Boy connector that you could like
Yep.
pull over your guys in battle in Stadium.
Well, you could play it on your TV in Pokemon Stadium too. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
That was cool.
but it wasn't like a 3D Pokemon game.
Right.
And I think after playing like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, I was like, well, obviously, like you take those games and you just make them Pokemon,
Yeah.
right? And of course that didn't happen for
For
like
20 years.
yeah, 20 years. So I distinctly remember that I was like, obviously the next step is making it a 3D open world game like the other Nintendo games, and it just, they just kept making them for the Game Boy, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, well, I'll play that, but surely the next one, right?
Yeah.
So, I think at some point for me, that kind of caused like Pokemon to drop off because like obviously I got into like, the consoles more. I had, eventually at some point I had like every console because I was like working a job like, mowing yards or something like that. So I was able to buy like the GameCube and, PlayStation 2 and Xbox or whatever. And so it was like the Game Boy started to fall to the wayside. So I think like that kind of leads us into the next thing. For me, I kind of had like a Pokemon, I'm not going to call it like a dark period or whatever, like people talk about with the Legos, but I kind of had this point where it was like, yeah, Pokemon kind of like got pushed to the back. Like it's kind of a kid's game, even though it's like it is, but also like, the RPG element is, kind of challenging, especially in, like Diamond and Pearl, etc. And I just kind of was like, yeah, Pokemon, I'll play it every once in a while when it comes out. But I think for me, around like 2005 to maybe 9, I really didn't pay attention like at all to what was coming out. I don't know if you had a period like that where it's like, hey, Pokemon, that's cool. Like I may play that, right?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I have played every generation and this doesn't even totally count except the Black White 2.
Mm-hmm.
I never played those. But I still would like play the game and do like one playthrough or something. Like I didn't always do a ton of post game. Um and like I was saying earlier, like I kind of fell off of like the TCG and the anime like years ago. So for me it's really just been the video games and kind of keeping up on those. But um yeah, I mean, not really. Honestly, more so like lately
Yeah.
than in the years past. Like I did finally complete Violet, but when that game first came out and it was having all those problems,
Mm-hmm.
I was just like not even interested anymore, and I just started playing other games. And then when the Switch 2 came out and they updated it, I did finally do my playthrough of that this summer. But um, yeah, other than missing Black and White 2, I've played everything, so I didn't really have like a total falling off, but like there were definitely times when I was like more into it than others. Because I used to like 100% complete the Pokédex,
Yeah.
do the Elite Four 100 times, get many Pokemon maxed out, stuff like that. But um, and even now I'm like one and done just because I got other stuff to do and other games to play.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of I've played every one, but I didn't like complete the Pokédex, etc. It would be like, all right, I got through the Pokemon game. Like it's and
Right.
they all kind of run together at that point. But yeah, I mean, I remember after Sun and Moon, even I was just like, whatever, what didn't really do anything afterwards.
Yeah,
Um,
I had to push myself to finish that one.
yeah, I do think. I mean, obviously, we're having this conversation now, so we both kind of had a resurgence. But yeah, I think for me, when Sword and Shield was announced, like I remember watching the direct when they like came. It was like in the summer or something, and they were like, "Hey, here's like the Pokemon Presents or whatever," or they're doing a Pokemon game for the Switch, and seeing that, and I was like, "This obviously like what I just talked about with N64." I was like, "This is what I always wanted Pokemon to be, right?
Right.
This is what I imagined it as a kid it to be." And so it was like, I am getting this game. Like I'm really excited
Yeah.
to pick this up. And I had a lot of people around me too. I knew two people that bought a Switch just to play the Pokemon game because they were like they just got into the hype again. Um and so I would say like, gosh, what was that? Like 2019?
19, I think.
Yeah. So 2019, I feel like I really started to get back into Pokemon. I was excited. I like knew the starters and dude, I'll know this is completely random, but I saw this dude. I don't even know what his channel is, but I just happened to be going through YouTube and I remember they were showing the starters and he was doing like a reaction video. And it was one of those where like somebody's obviously like faking their reaction. And they showed, I think it was like Grookey, like his silhouette, and then they actually showed like Grookey as like the starter. And he was just like, "It's another Pokemon! It's a Pokemon!" And I was like, dude, what am I getting back into? I was like,
Yeah.
are people this level? I was like, I just want to enjoy the games again. But yeah, Sword and Shield was probably when I hopped back in to like Pokemon as a whole and was like,
Right.
oh yeah, like they have shows and the cards and the actual game and like battling and all that. Like kind of I need to kind of like brush up on all this and get ready for the game.
Yeah, well, this is kind of a little bit off topic, but that's kind of what's been most frustrating about the Switch era of Pokemon games is that, like you had said, like I always pictured like, what if I could walk around like not in like third person from like, a camera behind my character, a 360 camera, I can see Pokemon like moving around in front of me. I can change the camera angle during battles and stuff like that. And those are the thoughts that I'd had in the back of my mind for like years. And with the Switch era especially, every game has felt like a half step forward.
Yeah.
And like when I first saw the Nintendo Switch, the Nintendo Switch reveal, and I'm like, console and portable Nintendo gaming is becoming one. I like seriously, I think the first thing I thought of was Pokemon on my TV. This is a more powerful system. They can give like a true like RPG experience for a Pokemon game. This is what I've wanted for 20 years. And then every step forward, or every game has been like half a step forward. Like with Sword and Shield, you finally got that 360 camera where there's Pokemon running around, but it's only in that wild section.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the map is locked. And then you have, well, I guess this kind of doesn't count, but there was like the Let's Go stuff, and that was kind of its own
Yeah.
thing. And that was kind of frustrating. Even that was frustrating because it was the first game of the Switch, and it's like, this is what you're doing with the first Pokemon game of the Switch. But
Yeah.
that was kind of its own thing. But so Sword and Shield had that. And then you have the Arceus,
Arceus, yeah.
which it it put it more into that, but it also had its weird things.
Yeah.
It added like, okay, now it's a truly open world, this humongous map where you can run around and explore. You can like throw Pokeballs at Pokemon, but it's not like a true like to form game. Like there's not as much like battling and the gyms and the Elite Four and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a separate thing. Then Scarlet and Violet come out, arguably the closest thing that we've ever had to that full experience. And then like the amount of post game that game added, you could like link up and play with people online where you're both like running around together.
Yeah.
Being able to do something like that was also like a pipe dream forever. And then that game ran like a turd. And then here we are now where it's like the X or ZA has come out, and then it's like a better version of Arceus and still kind of its own thing.
Yeah.
So it's just like we've been tiptoeing around this perfect game for years. And I don't know how much you wanted to talk about Wind and Wave, but that's where I'm hoping it all comes together in this like perfect game that is like beautiful graphics, like it performs well, it runs well, and it brings all this stuff together and creates like the experience that we've all waited for, like truly for all these years.
Yeah. I think I'm kind of in the same vein. I feel like I remember getting Sword and Shield, and I actually played it like on my projector that I had, so I could have like this big screen and kind of like get that, opportunity to kind of be inspired, by, playing this thing I've been waiting for a long time. And I remember like there's like the first scene where I think it's like you're getting ready to head to like Leon's house or something like that, or at some point near the beginning of the game, it like kind of shows you like the area, right? And you're like, whoa, this is a really big open Pokemon world. Like this is what I'm excited for. And then like I remember playing that and just being like, this kind of looks like butt. Like
This looks like butt.
Yeah, I mean, and so I went back and was messing with Sword a couple of days ago because my my oldest son is like started to play it, and I was like, dude, these graphics are cheeks. They are just awful, right? Compared to other stuff on the Switch. And it's like it stinks because like what you're saying is so true. We get like an incremental step with like each game that came out, and it's like, can you just put it all together, right? Like I know you could do it, right? And again, I guess I don't want to make this like a Game Freak, what are you doing type of thing, but it is one of those where you're like, man, if you could pull it off, like for real, like the gameplay, the graphics, some of like the things that we've had with like you got to read everything, making the battle system a little bit more fluid, man, I think like you would have people that they're already so excited for the franchise. I mean, like I've obviously played, nearly every game they've came out with. The only one I haven't played is ZA actually. And I'm like, dude, I would not rate any of them as like a really, really great game. And that's kind of a bummer, even though I like it. I like, have fun playing the games and like all the Pokemon and everything. So, yeah. So obviously we've had, what is it, 30 years of Pokemon at this point. What would you say out of all the games you've played at this point? Like what's your favorite game?
So I'm going to circle back to Silver, the very first one I ever played. There's certainly some like nostalgia and rose-colored glasses there with like being my first one, and it was like my first game like that as a kid. But I just think like the story, the generation, that is probably my favorite generation. The legendaries are so cool, the starters are so cool. And then really I think for me, like that game specifically did the one thing that nothing else has done, where you defeat the Elite Four and then you get to go back and play a whole nether region, and do 8 more gym battles and go battle Ash and all that. And like I started to say this earlier, and I figured I'd wait till we came back to this question, but this was back before there were like game gods. I mean, there was probably like stuff on the internet in like 2002, but like,
yeah.
And again, I was like a 7-year-old kid or whatever, and so I didn't know how to look up any of that stuff. I didn't know that was even there, and so like, and to this day, that is still one of like the coolest experiences of a video game I've ever had, where I've beaten the game and then realized that I was only like halfway there.
Yeah.
And there was another whole world I got to go play. And I know when like the story went a lot faster when you went back to go do Kanto, the first one.
Yeah, Kanto.
But being able to go like battle Misty and Brock and Blaine and all those people, that was just so cool and like such a surprise, because like I just didn't even know that was there. I thought I'd beaten the game, and then there's all this more gameplay to do. So I wish they would do that again. I would love. I know people want new Pokemon games. I would love for a third remake of Gold and Silver. At this point, because I just love that so much. But yeah, to this day, Silver is still my favorite. What's yours?
So mine's Arceus. I think there were just so many things about that game, like get over the technical hurdles that it kind of presented, but like at its core, like the style of gameplay that it is, I'm like, this is kind of what I imagined as that kid with the N64, what Pokemon would eventually be, right? Like you'd be able to walk up to a Pokemon and like try and catch it without battling it. The battle system would be more open. I think I even remember saying that to like a friend of like, hey, yeah, what if you could battle your Pokemon, but like you could walk around him while he's like fighting, you
Yeah.
know? And I remember being like, oh dude, that would be so cool if you could do that. And that's that game, right? I like the I just drew a blank on the region it is. Uh whatever. Is it Hisu?
I can't
I
remember.
don't remember it. Anyway, I like that region. I like the story of that game. It's definitely more like geared towards adults. I thought it was cool that like they had like the Pokedex kind of thing they had was like you didn't just catch them, you would try to like battle them and use a certain move, and then you would get like a check mark on the thing. It'd be like, hey, battle, a Zubat or whatever, and use like, you know, I don't know, mist against it, right? And I
Mm.
was like, this is cool. This is innovative, right? New stuff and I didn't mind like the crafting, element as well. Like I'm not a huge crafting person, but I was like, oh, this is cool. I don't just like do the standard like fight guys, earn money, and then buy stuff, right? And that's how I move forward. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would say like the Arceus was probably my favorite one up to that point. So
What do you have like thoughts on? And you could do a whole like discuss like video discussion on this, but if they were to change the style of how battles work, what are your thoughts on that? Like, what would you change or like add to the battle? Because it's turn based, and
yeah.
I've always thought like, and I don't even know how this would work without it becoming like a fighting game, like essentially Smash Bros or something. But like, if there was a way that battles could go like they do in the show, where it's like Charizard, watch to your left or whatever. Now hit the flamethrower before he turns around.
Yeah.
Like I've always wondered in my head like how could that translate to a video game, or like what else could we do here besides like turn based without
hmm
upsetting the apple cart too much?
you know uh, this is kind of an interesting question, and maybe I've got this because I've been playing this game, but like Hogwarts Legacy battle system, I think actually would go like pretty well with it
Oh
because
yeah, I never thought
you
of
kind
that.
of get like you get your four moves in Pokemon, and if you've not played Hogwarts Legacy, you can hold one of the trigger buttons, and then you hit one of the ABXY buttons, and that will do a particular move, and they've got like a color set with each move, so somebody might be like they might have like a yellow shield, right?
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
you got to do like a yellow move or like a yellow attack to break their shield. So
right.
I think it'd be interesting to do something like that. But yeah, it would be because then you've got like your your super effective moves, or and you could kind of battle in that way.
And they have
But
to like recharge and stuff like that.
yeah.
Hmm.
So I think you could do something like that maybe, but you're right. It's difficult because you started out as like turn based, right? And that's kind of perpetuated to this day.
Yeah,
But it does kind of like break up the action, of what you see like in the anime where it's like, hey, hit him with this. Hey, hit him with this again, right? Or dodge this or whatever,
yeah,
It just seems so much more like, lively and involved,
right.
in the show. So but yeah, I mean, I don't hate the turn-based battling. I think the biggest thing for me has always been like when like I remember being in Scarlet and Violet after playing Arceus and being like, dude, I have to go into a battle every time I want to catch a Pokemon. I was
Yeah,
like, for someone who was like trying to complete the Pokedex, it's like I have to at minimum do this 400 times. I'm like, that's a lot. Whereas like
yeah,
I just found that to be so much easier in like Arceus, where you just like you sneak up. Yeah, you can't catch every Pokemon by just like sneaking up and throwing a Pokeball, but
yeah.
you could catch a large majority of them. So, yeah, I on the battle thing, I think it would be interesting because the Legends games, it seems like they take more risk or experiment. I'd like to see them maybe do a little bit more live action type stuff with that, but
Yeah.
Again, I haven't played ZA, so maybe they did some stuff in that, but I'm probably not ever gonna play ZA.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the Hogwarts Legacy is about the best option that I could think of off the top of my head, because like time will kind of like freeze a little bit. So there's still like a chance to like process
hmm
how you're gonna do it. It's not just like mashing A or something.
hmm
And there's definitely like strategy involved with that. So I could see that translating really well. And like with I know RCS I think was the first game that did it, but with Scarlet and Violet, didn't when you finished like a Pokemon battle, like with a wild encounter, doesn't it you just like continue walking, right? Like it's not like there's like a pause or like a loading screen or anything.
I think it might like bring up the stats for like a second, and then it like you just go
Yeah,
back.
because I know that was a cool thing about RCS. It's like it's like a completely uninterrupted experience,
Yeah,
and I really liked that. So it's more fluid.
yeah, cool. Well, I think we're about to wrap it up. We've had a pretty good discussion on all the stuff Pokemon. Let's move on to like Wind and Waves though. Obviously, it's been announced. We kind of talked about the trailer. Like, what are you hoping to see in Wind and Waves? Like, I mean, we could kind of rehash some of the things we've talked about because I think
Yeah.
some of it'll come up naturally anyway. But like, well, are there what would you say like your two things that you would love to see in Wind and Waves? Right, it's the next generation, first game on the Switch 2, big opportunity. Well, I guess Pokopia, but that's not really like a main title Pokemon
Yeah.
game.
I actually made a TikTok about this. And I know this is like a small thing, but I've just been dying for voice acting
Yeah.
in Pokemon for years. And it's not even just because it has to be like the best um casted, like wonderful dialogue or whatever, but those text boxes are just brutal.
They are.
I don't know if like my ADHD has gotten worse or what. I feel like it was especially bad in Scarlet Violet, um, where you're just like ding, 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 and it's just. I mean, I remember when I started my replay of Scarlet, I was trying to stream it, and I realized that I had like been streaming for an hour, and I hadn't even picked my starter yet because like I was just going through so much dialogue.
Yeah.
And that, oh gosh, it was horrible. So any way to condense that down, I'd love to see like voice acting, um like more I don't, just a way to make it feel more lively. And GTA 5 can be further from Pokemon, but just when you're like walking around and see NPCs like on a skateboard or like just hanging out on the street or whatever, like doing things, and like in recent games it's usually just a person like standing there
Yeah.
and they don't move or blink. They're just like,
Yeah.
and then when you walk by, like maybe a text box will pop up over their head and it'll be like, "Lovely day, isn't it?"
Yeah.
I'm like, do something.
Then
Like
you're fighting.
you're dressed like a fitness instructor. Why aren't you jump roping or something? Like
Yeah.
do something. Um, so and I know that's not even really like a gameplay thing. It's more of an experience thing. And really to kind of take the easy way out, just like I want it to look and feel like a modern game.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what I already said, but just like I want advanced graphics, and that's it. Like I just want it to look good.
Yeah.
Like the gameplay's there, but just to look and feel good and to feel modern, and then to have uh good like online and multiplayer features. Like I think they were in the right track with what they did with Scarlet, where you could link up and run around and do stuff, but like do more with that and make it work right. But I don't ask for much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just those.
Yeah. I feel like kind of like we said before, it's like they're already so close. It's like it feels like just with a few small tweaks, it could really be so much better of an experience. Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, the voice acting stuff, any way to make that progress faster, I think. And again, when I see things that like kids dislike, I think that's where I really notice it's a problem. And that was something that
Yeah.
like, I mean, my oldest son, he was playing it and he was just like bored because he's sitting there like going past every text box or whatever, and he was like, I remember him being like, this is boring. And I feel like I think I mentioned this with like Mario Kart World versus Mario Kart 8 when he was like, I'd rather play Mario Kart 8, you know? And I'm like, well, it seems like you got a problem there because like the target audience that Nintendo is going after, right, is not having a good time with the game. And so when he was like, this is boring or whatever, and he loves Pokemon, like this is his first game he's played. He's watched me play all the others, but he himself is like, I'm not having fun, you know, doing this just because it's just reading, and he's like, I do enough of that at school.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for me the biggest thing is probably the graphics, right? If we could like, you already did some stuff in Arceus that like expedited the game and made it more like gamer friendly. I'd say move that over, you know, with some of the 3D battling. You've done it in 2 Legends games, like just pull that into the main game at this point. And then the graphics, man. I mean, I know that like 2019 at the recording of this video, that was 7 years ago, which is crazy. But then when you go back and look at like, when I look at Tears of the Kingdom and then look at Pokemon Sword, I'm like, these games aren't even in the same generation.
Yep.
Like there's no way. Like I couldn't believe how awful that Sword and Shield looked or whatever. And again, I don't feel like I'm asking for a ton, right? But like, like I don't need it to be like 4K 60 all the time, or that's not really what I'm asking. It'd be great, but I'm like, dude, just the level of pixelation and like stuttering and everything. I was like, I mean, again, I don't want to get on like a hate train or whatever here with, you know, some of the Pokemon stuff because people do that enough already. But I'm like, yeah, I feel like the graphical upgrade, right, and then pulling in some of the quality of life things that I saw from Arceus would be, to me, like, I feel like if you did that, like I've said this before, if you could combine what they did in Arceus just with like Scarlet and Violet and better, you know, graphics, I'm like, I don't think I would like have anything I could ask for. So cool. Yeah. Well, last thing, I don't know if you've thought through this or whatever. I tried to write mine down because I was like, dude, there's literally over 1,000 Pokemon. Do you have like a top group of favorite Pokemon you like top 5, you know, top 3, something like that?
I forgot to narrow it down, but before we shot this, but the ones that always come to mind would like the easiest one ever. I just have always loved Pikachu.
Yeah.
Dragonite is another one of my favorites. Ho-Oh, Rayquaza. I'm obviously kind of dragon obsessed. And then I'm trying to remember what my other one was. Oh, the monkey, the fire monkey, Infernape or whatever.
Infernape.
All 3 of those, I just loved that one for some reason. That was that XY? Is that what he was from?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
Dude, my oldest has been just like hammering me with stuff about Pokemon because he's like got into it, and he'll ask me stuff, and I'm like, dude, I don't know. I'm like, there's over 1,000 Pokemon. Yeah. I'm like, this isn't my job.
Yeah. Well, as you can probably tell from this video, we're Pokemon fans that go way back, but we're not like super fans that know like every detail. So some of our like regions are a little foggy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, don't at us, but yeah, I mean, and I'm excited about the new starters too. Like they look really cool.
Yeah, mine are Articuno, which I've already mentioned, Rayquaza, which you mentioned, Hisu, Typhlosion, because he was like fire ghost type and had these like sick like ghost tendrils coming out. I really liked Quaxley. Like I'm not as huge on like his final form, but just like the first form of him was just like super cool. He was like constantly doing like the hair thing. Or whatever.
He's cool.
So I really liked him, and Dragapult was my other one, like the final form of Dreepy from Sword and Shield.
Oh,
because he's like a ghost dragon, and he ends up having like Dreepy starts out, and then once he gets to like Dragapult, he has like 2 little Dreepies like on the side of his head that are supposed to kind of like fire out, I guess. But yeah, I also, you know, like the dragon stuff. But I was like, yeah, he was always like a cool, inventive kind of guy or whatever at that point. So yeah. So, well, guys, thanks for joining us, sticking around for this kind of discussion. You know, we don't get to be in person very often, so we were like, yeah, what can we do that would be kind of fun and worth our while, and, you know, just give an opportunity to chat. So we picked Pokemon because we certainly can talk about it. So if you like this video, you know what to do. Like hit like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Like, what are your 5 favorite Pokemon? You know, there's 1,000 to choose from. So until next time, we'll see you later on Switchcraft and Switchery.
Catch them all.